So, folks, there's no way really around it. Charlie Kirk is dead. He has been the target of a political assassination. Or, at the very least, what seems like a political assassination. We don't actually know the motives of the shooter. What we know at this point is that he was at an event on a college campus earlier today. While he was taking questions from the crowd, someone from a building around 200 yards away used a rifle and shot him through the throat. Now, there is video of this. I do not suggest that you seek it out, largely because it is very graphic and also it was fatal. So it is one of those things that I'm going to have to turn off text-to-speech for this one. Sorry, folks. I will answer to all your comments as at the end of the segment. Yeah, don't watch the video. Do yourself a favor. Do not watch the video. It is one of those things that will stick with you in a bad way. And you know, this is, I think, a really bad event. I think that there are a lot of ramifications that are going to become apparent in the coming days, if not the coming hours. A lot of things are, I think, going to get worse for the left as a whole, whether you are liberal or progressive or socialist or, you know, communist, or anarchist, as the case may be. It's gonna get worse. Now, I do want to kind of put an asterisk next to that because it is one of those things where it was always going to get worse. You know, this is going to be used as a pretext to making things worse, but the plan from the current fascist conservative government has been, and always has been, to make it worse and to look for excuses to crack down on their political opposition. Us. You guys. You know? And the unfortunate thing about this event is that it gives more, what I would argue, more gunpowder to their attempt to fearmonger and their attempt to clamp down. And that's generally not good for us. The extreme right is calling this the Reichstag fire. Yeah, I mean, like, there are actual commentators and people who are talking about this and who are saying that explicitly this needs to be the Reichstag moment for the Trump administration. This needs to be, you know, what causes the trigger that causes the clampdown on all political disagreements with the administration. And I don't know to what extent there is a political will to do that. What I do know is that there is an attempt to manufacture that political will, right? There is a deliberate and concerted effort to try and consolidate power, and that effort is going to try and use this to consolidate power. And it's, I think we all need to recognize that before we can move forward, right? It's going to get worse, and I think we should all just get ready for that. Okay? But that being said, let's take a look here, because obviously people are responding and reacting to this news in a variety of different ways. And I gotta say, I think that this is a good litmus test for where people land, right? And I guess I'll open it up by saying where I land on Charlie Kirk. Yesterday, I recorded a video, and I put it out earlier today, before the assassination, and where I talk and go over a piece that Charlie Kirk put out on his channel, with him and Ben Shapiro justifying the attempted assassination and destruction of the peace process between the leadership in Gaza and Israel. And one thing that really struck me from that entire interaction was just the absolute willingness to play defense for untold amounts of atrocities, not just on Ben Shapiro's part, but also on Charlie Kirk's part. You know, this is a man whose entire career has been dedicated to trying to increase gun ownership, loosen gun regulations, at least for people he agrees with politically. And this is someone who has talked openly about the need for the U.S. military to be used to make all political, anyone on the political left submit to the power of the state. This is someone who actively advocated for his fellow countrymen to be occupied at gunpoint and forced to comply with a dictator. This is someone who has been on that beat for months now. It's not subtle. It's not hidden. That is explicitly his messaging. And I wanted to just quick point out, there was a video he posted yesterday. Currently sits at over 500,000 views. And it's titled, Charlie Kirk sends Van Jones into a mental breakdown, where he talks about how, black people are always relying on Emmett Till because it is so rare for white people to kill black people.
70 years, but you know what? They use Emmett Till 70 years later because of this, because it's a case of a horrifying murder of an innocent black person by hateful whites. It's so rare they had to go back 70 years, but you know what? When a white person is murdered, we don't burn down the country.
And I just want to say, that's from yesterday, guys. That's from yesterday. And this is just it's horrible. The stuff he put out into the world, the rhetoric he put out into the world, the influence he wielded out in the world is of a nature of hatred, of the nature of violence, and of the nature of division. His entire program and goal in life was to create the very world that killed him. He... Yeah, and for all of his, Christian moralizing in the name of fascism, in the name of authoritarianism, he never seemed to learn about the phrase that Jesus said, those who live by the sword will die by the sword. And this is a case of that exact thing happening. What he put out into the world is exactly what wound up killing him. And that's the thing. Exactly. Right? He never thought the world would kill him. Because for a lot of these conservative commentators, this is a game. This is just going up in front of a camera and doing a little play acting. And then you get a check. And then you get to live your life. You get to buy those boats. You get the little mini mansion. And you go out and you say the most hateful, bigoted things imaginable, and you never think that it might have actual consequences. It is because they live in a world where it just seems to them that consequences are for other people. Charlie Kirk threw this out a couple years ago. The deaths of women and children in Gaza are the fault of Hamas, not Israel, just like the deaths in Japan during World War II were the fault of Japan, not America. When a government engages in unprovoked murderous aggression, they are to blame for everything that results. Again, this is a man who carried water for atrocities, who argued in favor of massacres. And it is not surprising to me that someone who lives like that and someone who spreads a message like that to millions winds up dying in this manner. And the unfortunate thing is that this all is going to have consequences for all of us. And I guess what I'm trying to get at here is that I consider Charlie Kirk a monster. I consider him someone who dedicated his life to trying to eradicate people like me from existence, who dedicated his life to trying to strip families of their children if they were gay. I think of him as a man who made excuse after excuse after excuse for the slaughter of children. I consider him someone who stood for death. He is someone who stood in favor of death. And I think it is unsurprising that this is where things went. And I do want to say, when I say it's unsurprising, that doesn't mean I think that his assassination is a good thing. I don't think that this is good, because what it represents, larger than what it actually materially did to Charlie Kirk, it represents the death of an era where we can talk our issues out. It represents that our country as a whole is losing the ability to settle our differences peacefully. And that's a really bad sign when your particular group, in my case, the left, all the way from liberals to anarcho-communists, when we do not have power and something like this happens, that is a huge problem. That is a huge problem. And I know that there are a lot of people, I see you all in chat saying that was already gone, but there was, I think, some hope of potentially restoring that in a reasonable time frame without much more bloodshed. And I think that this is heralding the coming age of a time when that is no longer the case, when our world becomes a more dangerous place. And I do not think that is good. Okay? I don't think that's good. And so there is a deep sadness in me today, because chat, and I think y'all need to understand this a little bit better, because I know that there are some people who are like, good, we need to go, let's rumble. But y'all need to understand that the death of something like that, the death of that era, is something that can lead to the complete collapse of our system, which is, I might add, again, to some people they're going to say good, but that comes with costs. And it comes in costs of lives. And I don't know, I'm greedy. I don't want to give up the lives of my friends. I don't want to give up the lives of my family. I don't want to give up my own life. I don't want this violence to spiral out and consume all of us. I don't want that. I especially don't want that when there's an authoritarian in control of our military. So I can't applaud that kind of chaos and death. I view it akin to the kind of thing that Charlie Kirk did for most of his life, and I refuse to become a person like him. I refuse. I refuse to become as hateful. I refuse to become as addicted to the violence of the state. I refuse. Because, make no mistake, a lot of people are going to talk around this, but Charlie Kirk was a man who loved violence. Now, he might not have applauded direct torture, though I'm sure if someone were to go through his various programs, he might have a ton of excuses for the use of torture. But he is someone who supported programs that would strip millions of people of healthcare that keeps them alive. An act of unconscionable violence by the state. Charlie Kirk was bloodthirsty for political violence enacted through bureaucracy and enacted through the state. And he was bloodthirsty for actual blood. When it comes to public executions, he was in favor. He wanted them televised. Again, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And I refuse to be that. Pretending to be kind when a fascist dies is lame liberal shit. I'm not pretending to be kind. I think there's a difference between being principled and having a sober analysis of what is happening than lighting off, between that and lighting off firecrackers and going like, ding dong, the witch is dead. Fuck them. Make no mistake, that is my general outlook, by the way. Fuck Charlie Kirk. I'm not asking you to mourn, but what I am asking you to do is organize. Because what is going to come after this requires us to organize or be isolated and perish. And to organize is to be human. That is what it has meant to be human since the dawn of our species. To organize. And as the saying goes, you don't just organize to organize, you organize and you fight. And this is what I have always advocated for. I have advocated for you all to organize in your communities, in your towns, in your cities, in your streets. And, what fighting means can be different in each one of those avenues. Whether it is showing up to city council meetings to make sure that your local homeless population has a place to stay warm in the winter, or it is going to your local soup kitchen to make sure that your community has food, or to, show up and primary Democrats in electoral venues when those pop up from time to time. It is going to look different in every arena. And if things get worse, you are going to need to rely on said organization for survival. I have gone from saying, well, you guys, you need to make cookies for your neighbors and get to know them. And the time for that was 6 months ago. Now I'm asking you to get more serious about organizing because the threat is larger. It is more realized. That all being said, that's where I stand. And y'all, I think the moment is a really good litmus test for who is reliable in this space, who you can trust in this space, who understands our current predicament and who has analysis that is worthwhile. And I gotta, I've told you guys I'm done talking about TYT. But I gotta break my silence on this one because this is just insane to me. This is just some insane bullshit from Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Charlie Kirk has been shot. He was in Utah giving a speech at a college, and unfortunately, I just found out that he's passed away. It is beyond tragic. It's disgusting. It's terrible. It's the worst thing that has happened in American media and politics in a long time.
I feel like there are worse things that have happened. This is bad for its ramifications, but dude, get your head out of your ass.
So this violence is not the answer. It is the very worst possible answer. We don't know who did it, and if some of you might have seen an older guy getting dragged away by the police, it turns out they released him. He's not the guy. So they haven't caught the guy yet, but I can't believe he passed away. I can't believe it. So he's gone. And violence is surrender. It's saying that you can't win in the battlefield of ideas. What a terrible, terrible message to send. And that you have to be barbaric and you have to be violent and you have to be a savage and you have to just shut that person down physically because you can't defeat him with your ideas. What a cowardly form of surrender. What a disgusting thing to do. How deeply immoral.
So, I want to pause this here. Is he crying? I think so, yeah. Charlie Kirk's ideas were not powerfully good or beyond the ability to debate in the marketplace of ideas. Who is he scolding? He's scolding the shooter. He's scolding the premeditated assassin who set this all into motion. Again, this is bizarre. It was some old guy? No, they have no idea who did this. They arrested someone who took video of the event and released them, and then Kash Patel, director of the FBI, got on Twitter and said, oh, don't worry, we've got a second guy. He definitely did it. And then a couple hours later, they released that guy because the description they have is man with gun in Utah. So 90% of dudes in Utah. So it is I would agree. I don't condone political violence, but we do have to reckon with the fact that political violence is currently unfolding both from this administration upon the American people, as well as leaking out from the social political breakdown we are currently experiencing.
This is a terrible, terrible day. Because, so not only do I know Charlie, and you could say, hey, he said bad things in the past. Who cares? That's not the point today, okay? It doesn't matter what people said. You never do violence. Never. That's the exact opposite of being a progressive. It makes no sense at all. We're against violence. If you do violence, you're not one of us. You're disgusting, you're immoral, and you're deeply counterproductive.
Which is everything that Charlie Kirk ever stood for. Just to point that out, Charlie Kirk, less than a week ago, was calling for the military occupation of American cities on the basis of political disagreements with the president, to be ruled under the shadow of 1,000 guns on every street corner. Like, I'm sorry, but like, Charlie Kirk was someone who advocated for extraordinary amounts of political violence and physical violence.
Anytime one side does violence, it makes everyone else hate them, rightfully so. So none of...
And I'm going to throw this out there. Once again, we don't know who did this shooting, and we do not know their motives. So, one of the things to really, I would say, take away from some of this is that a lot of people are jumping to a lot of assumptions that agree with their current political views. And I mean, like, how many times have we seen someone try to assassinate Donald Trump only for it to be revealed that it was a conservative whack job? It's a lot of times now, guys. And so the assumption here that on Cenk's part, that this is a message from the left is a big one, first of all. But what I am more interested in, and what Cenk is just not addressing here, and maybe he does towards the end of this message, we'll see. I'm concerned about what conservatives are going to do with this, which is that they are going to want to take action, and what that action might be, I have no doubt that it is going to be immensely negative, right? Immensely negative for people like us. Yeah, no, a lot of commentators on the conservative end of things are talking about how there is need to go to actual war against the political left in this country. So it's, it's interesting to say the least. Again, this moment is a litmus test for how people are capable of doing political analysis. And I guess we do have a couple of firm things about the shooter. One, this was very, very premeditated. That's one thing we know for sure. This was not a crime of opportunity. And two, we know that the shooter had marksmanship skills. 200 yards is a long shot, chat. Whoever fired that bullet only fired one bullet. So it was someone who knew what they were about. And I just gotta say, like, assuming this is someone on the left, or assuming this is, someone of sane mind who is trying to send a message, we do not know that. And when it comes to, events like this, making those assumptions has devastating consequences for all of us.
Our side should ever do that. Plus, he's a human being. I met him and his wife behind the scenes, etc. They're human beings, no matter how much we agree or disagree with anyone.
I don't know. Like, I think that some Dio Tyros, I'm gonna use your comment. Brassman, I'm gonna use your comment. 200 yards isn't actually. Sorry, 200 yards actually isn't that far. I've hit a target with an arrow at that range. I'm trained, but not a pro. But I think there's a big difference between shooting a target and shooting from a building. You found a spot, and then you shot someone clean through the neck who's standing in a crowd with no collateral damage. That is, in real world conditions, that is a very hard shot. He wasn't standing in a crowd? I thought the video was him standing in a crowd taking questions. Well, yeah, he wasn't in the crowd itself, but like, guys, what I'm trying to convey to you is that if you miss that shot, you kill somebody else. Only one shot was fired. Like, I don't know. Like, I think a lot of people who have trained on courses might be thrown a bit by the presence of many people between them and their target. There's definitely skill involved. Oh, yeah, of course. I'm just saying it's a difficult shot that narrows it down somewhat to the kind of person, but then you're looking at people who are pretty into this shooting activity. Maybe someone who has a military background, for example. Maybe someone who is an enthusiast of note.
This is just terrible. Guys, this is going to lead to worse and worse violence. I hope to God it doesn't. I hope that America regains its senses and gets back to peace and civility. But this is not the way. This is terrible. I feel awful for Charlie's family, obviously for...
Yeah, basically I'm trying to say it's not the profile of someone who is very, very into shooting and has the skills to do that generally skews to the right. And I'm not saying there's no one on the left who could do that. I'm not saying like leftists don't know how to shoot. I'm just saying some of what we know indicates against the current conservative narrative.
Charlie, stop all of the violence. This is the problem. This is not the way to solve it. So it's an absolutely tragic day, and my heart goes out to his entire family. I'm so sorry that this happened to anyone. I just can't believe it. All right, guys. Please, everyone, nothing but good thoughts and prayers for Charlie's family.
Yeah, let's see what the poly market odds were. Exactly, Sake Tanuki. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. It is just bizarre. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I do think that this has a lot of negative ramifications, but I'm not going to waste tears on this man. I'm not going to pretend like this is a dark day because we lost some kind of conservative luminary. Like, this is a man who added nothing to the world except hatred. Like, I don't know. We just don't have enough information to jump to the conclusion that it's like some leftists trying to send a message. Now, let's take a look at the president's response here, because he put out a video, and I gotta be honest, like, the vibe of this video is very bizarre to me. Not just the vibe, because obviously it's a singular video, but it has an AI feel to it. Yeah, Lady Wrangler, like, it has an AI feel to it, and I don't know if it is AI. But there is something very robotic about it. It wasn't AI. I don't know. Dude just talks weird then in this video.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with...
Maybe it's because they put a filter over it they usually don't do.
...with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by...
The president of the United States is literally calling him a martyr. Hey, does anyone remember when conservatives were going around talking about how calling someone a martyr meant that they were a terrorist? Because I remember how they just kept saying, like, oh, Hamas is talking about martyrs. Clearly they are terrorists. Well, look, Palestinians have martyrs. They're terrorists. But I guess when the president calls Charlie Kirk a martyr, he's not calling him a terrorist. It's weird. Bizarre, even.
Youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the 2 young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission.
Yeah, Charlie Kirk was all about good faith debate. As somebody who has covered extensively Charlie Kirk's debates, no. There's a reason why his latest tour of college campuses was him debating college students. Something that I saw and witnessed happen back in 2016. I remember this from the conservative playbook 10 years ago. I'm sorry, his ideas lacked merit, so he needed to, dunk on children, essentially.
Was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals.
Speaking of, that seems like a pretty specific thing to talk about, people calling good, honest, upstanding Americans Nazis. Might that have anything to do with something that happened to Donald Trump literally yesterday?
Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! Free DC! Free Palestine! Trump is the Hitler of our time! What do you want your legacy to be? Let's go. What do you want your legacy to be? He's terrorizing communities and
Time to go.
He's terrorizing communities
Time to
all
go.
over the world.
Time to go.
From Puerto Rico.
Let's go.
Free DC, free Palestine. Trump is the Hitler of our time.
Maybe he is using Charlie Kirk's assassination to work out some of his frustration at being called the Hitler of our time yesterday.
This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents.
By the way, again, it always has to be about him. Someone else was assassinated, but let's talk about Trump's assassination attempts.
To the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others. Radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech.
The values of free speech. This is an administration that wants to make it illegal to ask for people's pronouns. They don't even stand for free articles of speech, let alone speech in general. Damn.
Citizenship.
Yeah, free speech for all of Trump's political allies. Anyone else, or if one of his allies disagree with him, get him out of here. The
rule of law and the patriotic devotion and love of God.
Can we also just say, it is beyond bizarre to me to talk about this subject and to be like, yes, the issue here is that people were using their free speech to say something that was mean and inconvenient. But yeah, Charlie Kirk stood for free speech, though. The reason he's dead is because of all the Nazi name calling.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
What a weird way to end an address about an assassination. Yeah, this guy was assassinated, but God bless America. Like, damn, dude. Damn. I think America might have some issues right now. I will say, at the very least, Donald Trump here is not saying, like, yes, the radical left definitely killed him. He's just implying it, which unfortunately is an improvement. Now, I do want to note something that is just, unfortunate when it comes to Charlie Kirk and his message, specifically. I really want to throw this up there. So, we've got Charlie Kirk's YouTube channel here, obviously, and 4 million subscribers, pretty respectable. His last video, Charlie Kirk hands out huge L's at University of California, San Diego. And the second to last one is the NFL is back just in time to ruin my week. And, boy. Some things have not aged well on here, at all. And I just want to say, we're in a rough time, to say the least. So the NFL did it. We don't know. We can't jump to conclusions here. But like all of the conservative media is going it full on into overdrive. Here is, of course, the number one conservative out there currently vouching for Charlie Kirk, Gavin Newsom. The best way to honor Charlie's memory is to continue his work, engage with each other across ideology through spirited discourse. In a democracy, ideas are tested through words and good faith debate, never through violence. And I have to reiterate, Charlie Kirk was never a good faith debater. I've watched dozens, if not 100 plus of his debates, and he is incredibly bad faith when it comes to debate. Like, I'm sorry, but like, this is a man who doesn't believe that I have the right to exist in an open and free society, because he's a bigot who believes people like me should be exterminated, right? And so when I see people like Gavin Newsom talking about how Charlie Kirk stood for, like, free-spirited exchange of ideas and good faith debate. No, it was never a good faith debate. Never, ever, ever. Not even one time. Was he even good faith on Gavin's podcast? No! We went over that. It was one of the most sickeningly, like, sycophantic things I've seen in my life. Gavin Newsom all but kowtowed on his own show to Charlie. It's been wild today to witness the media remember him as somebody wholly and completely different. Yeah, like, I don't know, like, a good portion of my channel is paying attention to what these conservative lickspittles put out into the world on a daily basis, right? And the idea that Charlie Kirk was good faith is bonkers. It's just madness. It is madness born from people who only ever saw him through a veneer of power, wealth, and prestige that his billionaire donors heaped upon him. It's only ever seen through the veil of, different celebrities he surrounded himself with when it came to the wealthy elite of our country. They worship him like he was some kind of peacemaker, and he was exactly the opposite. He was tasked with exactly the opposite. And now, folks, we're in a time where, like, our oligarchs are calling for war. Here's Matt Van Swol, who went viral a while back. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think I'm beginning to lose the will to be tolerant. And Elon Musk jumps in. If tolerance means the end of Western civilization, then we cannot be tolerant. You know, just discovering the dumbest possible formulation of the paradox of tolerance. Elon was right. And Elon Musk, earlier today, if they won't leave us in peace, then our choice is fight or die. They're literally recycling slogans from the Revolutionary War to call for violence against people on the left. And again, it's just the nebulous people on the left. It's not a specific person. None of these people are being specific at all, because the vagueness is the point. The vagueness is the point. Because with vagueness, it can apply to anyone and everyone they do not like. Full stop. Full stop. And, you know, we just watched Donald Trump talk about the death of Charlie Kirk for about 5 minutes. About 5 minutes. You know, very long and in-depth talk about what happened and his condolences to everyone affected by it. Here is how Donald Trump reacted to the political assassination in my home state 2 months ago.
Have you called the governor yet or been able to speak to any of them?
I don't really call him. He appointed this guy to a position. I think the governor of Minnesota is so whacked out. I'm not calling him. He's a mess. So, you know, I could be nice and call him, but why waste time?
Have you called the governor yet or been?
Why waste time? Why waste time addressing a political assassination? Why do that? And again, like, it's because these people don't give a fuck about political assassinations. They just want the political assassinations to agree with their politics. You know, I can agree that we should not have political assassinations in our country. In a civilized time, in a civilized era, we should be able to arrive at conclusions through discussion and discourse. But these people who currently rule the country are not men or women who believe in civilization. They are fascists. They believe in death. They are cultists to death. The death cult is a core component of fascism, and they love it when it applies to their enemies. And they consider us their enemies. Okay? That is why you see this very disparate reaction. Because Donald Trump wants to use this in order to send military units into every township, county, every, local park in America. They want jackbooted thugs as far as the eye can see. That's what they want. And that is what we are seeing exactly unfold right now. You know, Aaron Reed over on Blue Sky is doing some good work, just compiling some of the things that Charlie Kirk has said, specifically about transgender people like me, and the wider world. Here, let's take a look at a few of these.
The one issue I think that is so against our senses, so against the natural law, and dare I say, a throbbing middle finger to God, is the transgender thing happening in America right now. We are in a church, and so it's important to remember Deuteronomy 22:5, a woman shall not wear a man's garment, nor shall a man put on a woman's cloak. For whoever does these things is an abomination to the Lord your God. You hear that, William Thomas? You're an abomination to God.
Yeah, dude literally got off on attacking marginalized individuals. Here's Charlie Kirk talking with Riley Gaines on his show. Here's the good work that people like Gavin Newsom and Cenk Uygur are mourning today.
And these people are sick, and I don't say that lightly. The NCAA is a perverted organization. They platformed a biological male who won a national championship and then was allowed in incredibly disturbing detail to be around you and your fellow competitors. And again, I blame the decline.
You know, I love when someone like Charlie Kirk quotes Deuteronomy, and then very next clip we see is him wearing mixed fabrics. Like, fuck off, dude.
Line of American men. This never should have been, someone should have just took care of it the way we used to take care of things in the 1950s or 60s. But, as you have testosterone rates go down and men start acting like women and they don't do anything.
And by the way, in case you are wondering, how did America take care of trans people in the 50s and 60s? Well, folks, there were laws that allowed police to examine your clothing to see if you were wearing the right clothing, and if you were considered not being in possession of the right clothing, you went to jail. They arrested you and beat you and put you in prison. Okay? And not only that, but like they would literally hunt trans people in cities. Police made a game of it. Trans people were murdered. This is why you don't hear about a ton of trans people who came out during the 50s and 60s. And it's because society killed us. And so you have an entire generation or 2 generations of people who, if they did transition, they hid it until they died. But let's take a look at another clip here. When they're calling for thoughts and prayers about Charlie Kirk, for sympathy and empathy, just keep in mind, I'm not saying don't have sympathy, don't have empathy. These are good things to have. You shouldn't abandon them even in these times. But this is what Charlie Kirk thought about those things.
Empathy and sympathy. I can't stand the word empathy, actually. I think empathy is a made-up New Age term that does a lot of damage, but it is very effective when it comes to politics. Sympathy I prefer more than empathy. That's a separate topic for a different time.
This is very funny. No one was more vehemently anti-Charlie Kirk than Charlie Kirk. Here's another Charlie Kirk banger. What a great and thoughtful man who engaged in good faith.
She takes off the Miss Rachel costume and the uniform, etc., and she comes back and she's like, now I'm just talking as Rachel. And she goes, the reason I'm this way is because I'm Christian. And in the Bible, it says, love your...
Like, look, here he is talking with Jack Posobiec, where they're complaining about our generation's Mr. Rogers. A woman named Miss Rachel who teaches children how to sing songs and use the potty.
Neighbor. And really, I approach people in love. And if you're not doing that, I guess you're not really following the Bible. She didn't say that part, you're not following the Bible, but that was kind of the underlying piece there. So Charlie, what's going on with that?
Well, let's let her say it. 120, I'll respond, and then I got a dash.
I've shared prayers on here before and said, God bless. And that's because my faith is really important to me. And it's also one reason why I love every neighbor. In Matthew 22, a religious teacher asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And Jesus says to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. There's no greater commandments than these. I believe it's mentioned 8 times, love your neighbor. So yes, everyone belongs, everyone's welcome, everyone is treated with empathy and respect. It doesn't say love every neighbor except. There are so many reasons I stand strong in love. I stand with everyone.
Wow, what a monster. Oh my goodness. What a colossal monster who just wants to love people and make sure that children hear positive, loving things regardless of where they are on this planet.
That's who I am. And the love back and the God bless if you disagree is genuine.
Andrew?
I was just... To Jack's point, I'm dying to know, like, what do you think when Miss Rachel quotes scripture in that way?
I mean, Satan's quoted scripture plenty.
It doesn't just say love your neighbor, though. It does say love your neighbor except.
Ah, yes, Miss Rachel, the new Satan, the great Satan that has arisen to destroy Western civilization.
In a sense.
As yourself, but hold on. She's not totally wrong when she says, first of all, the first part is Deuteronomy 6:3-5. The second part is Leviticus 19. So you love God. So you must love his law. How do you love somebody?
Here we go, folks.
You love them by telling them the truth, not by confirming or affirming their sin. And it says, by the way, Miss Rachel, you might want to crack open that Bible of yours. In a lesser referenced part of the same part of Scripture is in Leviticus 18, is that thou shalt lay with another man shall be...
Hey, I wonder if Charlie ever paid attention to the rest of Leviticus, or was it just the parts that were about men having sex with men? Because I think the fixation there is interesting.
Stoned to death. Just saying. So, Miss Rachel, you quote Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as yourself. The chapter before affirms God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters.
She takes off the Miss Rachel costume.
So Charlie Kirk here is putting himself up as one of those people who is a true defender of Christ and God, and in the process of doing so, talks about how Miss Rachel isn't a true believer because she's not stoning gay people. I guess that puts him in opposition to Miss Rachel because he's in favor of it. It's all just so disgusting, It's so disgusting. I'm not prepared. That's not true. I am prepared for this, but can we just come together for a moment and acknowledge how deeply, deeply weird it is for the New York Times editorial board to come together and write this piece? The entire editorial board got together and wrote "America mourns Charlie Kirk," and understand who Charlie Kirk is. Charlie Kirk is someone who got billionaire money to build up a propaganda network with Turning Point USA in order to radicalize the elderly and college-age students. This is a man who took money from the richest people on the planet his entire life, used their connections to further their agendas. He was a servant of capital till the end. And American media, in the liberal area of American media anyway, they're just celebrating. They're just celebrating it. It's crazy. Fuck yeah, take that corporate money. Fuck yeah. Yeah, demonize gay people. Hell yeah. We all mourn him. Yeah, he did so much to harm LGBTQ rights. What a great dude. What an impressive pillar of journalism this man is, who spread nothing but hatred for Palestinians, for Muslims in general, for and as I observed yesterday, he constantly sprinkled in anti-Semitic ideas throughout his narratives. He literally, in the video I put up earlier today that we recorded last night, prior to all of this, he talked to Ben Shapiro and was like, haha, Ben, Jews control the media, haha. Dude was constantly making those little jabs because he hated everyone who wasn't a white Christian nationalist. Now, I guess to the New York Times credit, they did change the title, Charlie Kirk's Horrific Killing and America's Worsening Political Violence. So, good job changing it. But wow, that's still bad. Yeah, no, literally 2 days ago, he was talking about how, he was doing 1350. He was doing one of the classic white supremacist dog whistles about how, black people are disproportionately, violent and, need to be, policed more. He was literally doing the white supremacist 4chan thing from a decade ago. And he's being lauded for it. Let's take a look. I haven't seen the recent update from the Utah officials on this, so we'll take a look, see what they have to say here.
Has an emotional impact for you too, having witnessed a homicide, but also
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here. At this press conference, we will first hear from Utah Department of Public Safety Commissioner Bo Mason. Then we'll hear from the FBI Special Agent in Charge, Robert Bowles. We'll then hear from Utah Valley University Vice President Val Peterson, who's been in touch with President Jimenez. And then we'll hear from Governor Cox. I'll turn the time over to Commissioner Mason.
It's all good, Catabingo. Just chill. Everything will be fine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bo Mason, Commissioner for the Utah Department of Public Safety. Today at approximately 12:20 Mountain Standard Time, political influencer Charlie Kirk was shot at an event at the Utah Valley University. He was taken by
This press conference was from about 4 hours ago, Christopher Roberts.
private vehicle to Timpanogos Hospital, where he later passed. The Utah Department of Public Safety will be co-leading this criminal investigation to find this killer, along with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. We are working in unison with the County Sheriff's Office, the local police department, and the University Police Department, all of which have been very cooperative and fully engaged in this process. Shortly after the shooting, we did have a suspect in custody, George Zinn, but he was released from custody after we identified that he did not match the shooting suspect and was not an accurate person of interest. However, he has been booked into the county jail by Utah Valley University Police Department for obstruction of justice.
Charlie Kirk was killed at Dithron.
We do still have an active investigation for the person of interest. This incident occurred with a large crowd around. There was one shot fired and one victim. While the suspect is at large, we believe this was a targeted attack towards one individual. This is a tragic moment in our state and in our country. As we heal, we encourage everyone who is struggling with news of the incident to call 988, our state mental health crisis line. In addition to that, our partners with the FBI will also be discussing other ways we can communicate through the public for tips and other information. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
I mean, the evidence, Juan de Pueblo PR, is that it's a really impressive shot with a level of preparation that indicates a lot of essentially. My brain. I'm sorry. It's late. My brain wants to say predetermination. Or predestination. I know that's not the right word. Premeditation. Thank you.
On behalf of the FBI, we extend our sincerest condolences to the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. Our thoughts.
Can you turn up the sound? I'll do my best. I have to use this plugin.
Are also with the people who witnessed this traumatic event. We know that what you experienced was very difficult. Our thoughts are with you as well. As soon as we heard about the shooting, special agents and personnel from the Salt Lake Field Office responded immediately. We have full resources devoted to this investigation, including tactical, operational, investigative, and intelligence. To be clear, the FBI will fully support and co-lead this investigation alongside with our partners. We are working on setting up a digital media tip line, and as soon as it's established, we'll get that information out to everyone. I know there's a lot of questions. This is very much an active case, and this investigation is in its early stages. We are following all the leads and all the evidence. If anyone has any information, please report it to the FBI or local law enforcement. Thank you.
So they really have nothing. That's honestly, that is wild.
On behalf of President Jimenez, who we've been communicating with, and she's on her way back right now, I say that on behalf of Utah Valley University, we are shocked and saddened by the tragic passing of Charlie Kirk. We express our sincere condolences to the Kirk family. We grieve with our students, faculty, and staff who bore witness to this unspeakable tragedy. He was invited by the...
Well, do I think that they can find the shooter? That's a really good question, because basically I saw some a stat breakdown recently that indicates that like so many federal departments have reassigned like in some cases like anywhere from 20 to 50% of their staff to ICE and like going after like undocumented immigrants, that like basically all departments other than ICE are understaffed to a crazy degree, which means some of the people that would otherwise be on top of this from the federal government are not going to be doing that. So we'll see.
Student group Turning Point USA to speak on our campus. We firmly believe that UVU is a place to share ideas and to debate openly and respectfully. Any attempt to infringe on those rights has no place here. We do not condone any form of violence at UVU and seek to make our campus a safe place for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this dark and tragic occasion. I want to thank our law enforcement officers who are leading this investigation, starting with Chief Long and his response here with the UVU Police Department. We're grateful for your leadership and your team. And again, to the speakers that you've just heard from who are co-leading this investigation. I also want to recognize Sheriff Mike Smith, who has been an invaluable partner as this investigation moves forward. I've been in touch with President Trump, with FBI Director Kash Patel. We are completely aligned with our state and federal partners as we work through this case. Now,
I mean, it is entirely possible that if this person had training in Utah, this is someone who could like throw on a backpack and like go out into the woods and just like lay low for a very long time.
This is a dark day for our state. It's a tragic day for our nation. And I want to be very clear that this is a political assassination. We are celebrating 250 years of the founding of this great nation. That founding document, the Declaration of Independence.
Like, look, I don't know if it's a political assassination. It's an assassination, for sure. It has political ramifications, for sure. But did someone assassinate Charlie Kirk who had like a political axe to grind that is in any way coherent? Was this someone with a death wish? Is this someone who wants to get a number of high-profile body counts? Is this a serial killer? What we don't know. What we do know is this is someone with the talent to be able to pull that off. You know, with the ability to pull that off. Isn't assassination inherently political by definition? I'm pretty sure you can assassinate someone non-politically. That sounds weird to say, but I'm pretty sure you can.
That this great experiment on which we embarked together 250 years ago, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. The first one of those is life. And today, a life was taken. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a dad to two young children. He was also very much politically involved, and that's why he was here on campus. Charlie believed in the power of free speech and debate.
Yeah, this is the governor of Utah.
To shape ideas and to persuade people. Historically, our university campuses in this nation and here in the state of Utah have been the place where truth and ideas are formulated and debated. And that's what he does. He comes on college campuses and he debates. That is foundational to the formation of our country, to our most basic constitutional rights. And when someone takes the life of a person
The guy currently speaking is the governor of Utah.
Because of their ideas or their ideals, then that very constitutional foundation is threatened. Now, we have a person of interest in custody. The investigation is ongoing. But I want to make it crystal clear right now to whoever did this, we will find you. We will try you. And we will hold you accountable to the furthest extent of the law. And I just want to remind people that we still have the death penalty here in the state of Utah.
We will find you and we will kill you. Because that is justice here in Utah. Woo! Like, damn. Like, I don't know, man. Like, that doesn't seem like justice to me. That doesn't seem like justice. Especially when this guy goes out of his way to be like, yeah, we'll kill you though. Yeah, we'll kill you because killing is wrong. You have a fundamental right to life. Except when we say you don't.
Our nation is broken. We've had political assassinations recently in Minnesota. We had an attempted assassination on the governor of Pennsylvania. And we had an attempted assassination on a presidential candidate and former president of the United States, and now current president of the United States. Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken. We mourn with his wife.
There are so many things I'm restraining myself from saying in the interest of being someone who is a reliable, voice in this space, but I want you all to know it's very difficult.
His children, his family, his friends, we mourn as a nation. If anyone...
But we're not mourning enough to pass common sense gun controls, okay? We're not mourning enough to pass any of those common sense gun reform bills that have like 90% support. We're not mourning that hard.
In the sound of my voice, celebrate.
When we're talking about mourning and trying to make a better world where this doesn't happen, what we mean is we want to sell you more guns. And we want to crack down on our political enemies and, infringe on their constitutional rights because we can.
Even a little bit at the news of this shooting, I would beg you to look in the mirror.
Stalin was a father doesn't change the fact that he was Stalin. Exactly. Like, that is how a lot of this comes across, Sake Tanuki. Like, this is a lot of just think of his children though, and like, yeah, that's sad, but also I'm sorry, this was a man who dedicated his life to trying to eradicate people like me, and I'm not sad at his passing. I'll tell you guys that much. I do not mourn.
And to see if you can find a better angel in there somewhere. I don't care what his politics are.
You should though. You should though. I'm sorry. Are you mourning Hitler's passing? Do you commemorate Hitler's death every year and think about what a swell guy he might have been? Like, well, what if he was really fun at dinner parties though? Did you ever think about that? Did you ever think about poor little Hitler and his dinner parties and how good of a guy he might have been to his friends? Like, this is insane. This is some, like, bullshit. Especially coming from a guy who's like, you gotta find your better angels in there somewhere. Because we're gonna put them on trial and punish them to the furthest extent of the law. And we do have the death penalty, so I do mean we are gonna kill those better angels.
I care that he was an American. We desperately need our country. desperately.
Yeah, I started out this I Am Lem by letting people know don't go out and seek the video of him being shot. It is a very terrible thing to watch. It's one of those things that's going to haunt you, and not in like a good way.
We need leaders in our country, but more than the leaders, we just need every single person in this country to think about where we are and where we want to be. To ask ourselves, is this it? Is this what 250 years has wrought on us? I pray that that's not the case. I pray that those who hated what Charlie Kirk stood for will put down their social media and their pens and pray for his family, and that all of us will try to find.
Did Charlie Kirk ever do that once? Did Charlie Kirk do that for the trans kids he targeted? Did Charlie Kirk do that for the minorities that he called like a blight upon our country? Did Charlie Kirk do that for the poor and the destitute and the downtrodden of this country? No, he didn't. He sold them out, and he tried to either eliminate them outright or sweep them under the rug. This is a man who made excuse after excuse for atrocities and massacres against people he didn't like. I've heard of having a frog in your throat. I've never heard of having a slug in your throat before. Indeed. It is, I mean, frankly, it's damning. This is a guy who was in favor of, like, washing away memorials at the Pulse nightclub for shootings. Like, this is a guy who, like, applauded violence against LGBTQ people. Oh man, just don't pay attention to what he stood for, though. If it were any of us, he'd be giddy. I mean, you're not wrong. Unpack your boxes in the background. I would love to, but I'm waiting for my studio to be finished, and I do not have other spaces to put these boxes.
Find a way to stop hating our fellow Americans. With that, we're happy to take a few questions.
The FBI director is posting that a suspect is in custody. I would just like clarification. Do you or do you not have a suspected shooter in custody?
We have a person of interest in custody that is being interviewed right now.
That is not George Zinn.
That is not George Zinn. Okay. That is correct.
Are you still searching or looking for another shooter or anybody else related to this?
Yes, we are actively looking for anyone and everyone who has any possible information.
Also, as far as I know, folks, there have been 2 arrests so far. The first arrest was a cameraman who captured the incident on video, and he was subsequently released. And the second person who was arrested, an older gentleman, was released after questioning. Apparently, he had a gun, but again, it's an open carry state and an open carry campus, so a lot of people have guns. Turns out, just surrounding the campus with guns, maybe even good guys with guns, did not in fact stop this. So, George Zinn, not the shooter, and they currently, as far as I know, after this conference, they have no one in custody. I don't know if they still have that person of interest in custody, but I guess we'll find out.
Relating to the shooting.
Can you tell us details about the suspect being taken into custody? Where? How long ago?
We cannot at this point, but we will get you that information when we can.
Is there believed to be a second individual involved in the shooting?
At this point, there is no information that would lead us to believe that there is a second person involved.
Can you guys talk about the possible shooting?
Do you want to talk about what we know there?
Yeah. The only information we have on the suspect, the possible shooter, is taken from closed circuit TV here on campus. We do have that. We're analyzing it, but it is security camera footage, so you can kind of guess what the quality of that is. But we do know dressed in all dark clothing, but we don't have a much better description other than that.
Where do you think the shot came from?
So we've got a guy presumably in black clothing with a rifle. That is not narrowing it down whatsoever. Also, just to point out here, like, this isn't just some guy. There's a reason the media is carrying a bunch of water for this guy, and it's because of his connections. It's because of his moneyed connections that funded his outlet, also fund Republican politicians, and is able to put Charlie Kirk, or was able to put Charlie Kirk, in contact with a bunch of these political figures. Which is why NBC News can talk about an update from the White House. Inside the White House, as officials learned about Charlie Kirk's death. In shock, just sick, devastated. Like, these are all just, like, he's not just some guy in the media, right? Because he's not a member of the media. He's a propagandist. He's a paid propagandist, and he's paid by the same people who spend tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, lobbying these politicians. And it is insulting to treat him as like, oh man, he's just like, he's here for fair and honest discourse. That's bullshit.
The shot came from here on campus, from a location at a fair, potentially from a roof, yes. A longer distance shot from a roof.
So to clarify, with the security camera footage you have and the person of interest that's in custody, does that match up?
That's what we're trying to decipher right now.
So did FBI or DHS have anything on the threat board this morning?
I can't speak.
I'll just say that the investigation's ongoing, and as soon as we have further information, we will be sure to release it.
Any indications of foreign intelligence involvement?
As of now, I can't comment on any of that.
Thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the security of the event itself? Who was there security-wise, and what happens on these kind of events?
Chief Long. So my name is Jeff Long. I'm the police chief here at UVU, and I'll tell you right now, we are devastated. We're a small police department. We have a very large campus. We have over 40,000 students, and we love our students. We love our visitors, and we're devastated by what happened today. This is the police chief's nightmare. I'm very saddened for the Kirk family. I know his wife and parents found out about this. You know, obviously he's away from home. He's here in Utah. They find out by a police officer that visits their home. That's tragic. Nobody wants that. But I can tell you about our venue today. This was an open venue. This was outside. We did have 6 officers working that event. We had probably over 3,000 people that were in attendance. It sat down in kind of a bowl area here on the central campus. We have a waterfall area, and so he was kind of in a lower area, surrounded by buildings. We had some plainclothes police officers that were in the crowd as well. We train for these things, and you think you have things covered, and these things, unfortunately, they happen. You try to get your bases covered, and unfortunately today we didn't. And because of that, we had this tragic incident. So we did have officers there. We had Charlie Kirk's team. He has a security team that travels with him, and they were here with him when he was shot.
Was the gun recovered?
I'm sorry, see?
Was the weapon recovered?
At this point, I can't disclose that.
Who made the arrest?
There was a question being asked about mass shooting.
Okay. Oh wait, are they about to...
Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
Say the question again. I don't know if I understand what you're saying.
When Charlie Kirk was shot, he was answering a question about mass shootings specifically. Was that person apprehended, and do you know who asked that question?
I do not. We do not have that at this moment.
Ladies and gentlemen,
yeah, that is an aspect I hadn't mentioned until now. He's literally shot in the process of responding to someone who asked him about mass shootings. Because Charlie Kirk is not really in favor of any kind of policy that would reduce mass shootings, right? And so people are constantly asking him about, like, well, what do you do about it if you're actively against the things that would stop this? It does feel very on the nose, which is why I was kind of wondering if this was like a statement like if there were people working together. But again, that is all just almost entirely baseless speculation that could be put down to coincidence, you know? Yeah, he talked about he was going to talk about like gang violence. Like, do you include gang violence in mass shootings? He was arguing about how trans people shouldn't get to have guns by blaming people of color on non-trans shootings. Yeah, it is all just, again, I said earlier in stream, you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and like that is kind of that's what happened here, in my opinion. Yeah, some ugly last words for sure. But that is the press conference here, the last one that I'm aware of, and I gotta say, like, if you have any respect left for mainstream media, you need to check that at the door, because I mean, well, here's MSNBC.
I'm going to bring you in on this. Talk to me about the environment. The reports of exactly what happened are not confirmed yet, but talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, I emphasize what you just emphasized. We don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up with what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions.
I'm going to bring you in
on that man who just spoke. That was a man named Matthew Dowd. He spoke about 3 hours ago is when he said that on MSNBC. He has since lost his job for the unimaginable crime of saying that Charlie Kirk was and continues to be, in his legacy, a bigot. He said, and I quote, "He's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions." And I think that is the environment we are in. You can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have, and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place. And that's the unfortunate environment we're in. And that got him fired. That man's correct. That man is correct. And he said it in the most matter-of-fact, Fred Rogers kind of way. And, I mean, like, damn. And the weakness of our mainstream media is profound, because nothing about that was incorrect. Nothing about that was disrespectful to Charlie Kirk. It was accurate to who he was in life, and it was accurate to his legacy and death. We are in a moment of profound weakness, and I am deeply worried our ability to move forward is going to be... And I mean, I do want to throw this out there. I think J.B. Pritzker has like maybe the best response to all of this. And here we are.
Sympathy to Charlie Kirk's family and to Charlie Kirk, who obviously has, become a target for somebody. I don't know whether it's political violence, because I don't know who did it. I know they seem to have somebody in custody. But I will say that political violence, unfortunately, has been ratcheting up in this country. We saw the shootings, the killings in Minnesota. We've seen other political violence occur in other states. And I would just say it's got to stop. And I think there are people who are fomenting it in this country. I think the president's rhetoric often foments it. We've seen the January 6th rioters who clearly, have tripped a new era of political violence. And the president, what did he do? He pardoned them. I mean, what kind of signal does that send to people who want to perpetrate political violence? Not a good one.
I think that is short and to the point. I'm constantly worried that there will be no stopping it. It means the fascism thing this time around. I hope so. I will try my hardest, but woof. I mean, I think we need to do anything we can to stop this, you know? Dude does need to, I think people on the left, specifically anyone who's on the left nominally in any capacity, needs to start talking way more shit. Because one of the ways you can push back on this type of mythologizing and this type of like martyring that we are currently seeing in the process of building up Charlie Kirk into a conservative mythos, one of the ways you can prevent that is talk fucking shit. This man was not a legend. This man is not a martyr. This man is a paid op from billionaires and millionaires. This man is someone who was paid to be a mouthpiece and lick boots. The reason he knew all of those rich, influential people was because he was taking money from rich, influential people. His ideas were not strong. They were, in fact, quite weak. He just had a very large platform given to him so that he could, make apologies. Yeah, he was a pedophile apologist. He made excuses for the worst crimes imaginable. He was essentially a guy who was paid to create a platform of like, well, what was she wearing? Look, those children deserved to get bombed. That is his contribution to the world. And I think we all need to reckon with that, and I think we all need to hold on to that, and we all need to keep talking about that, because we need to talk shit to push back against this attempted martyrdom. And I do have to point out here that there are some really bad things coming down the pipeline, right? I talked about this at the beginning of stream when I kind of planted my flag and told you all where I stand on all this. But my fear is the backlash. Because whatever the reality, whatever the motivations of the shooter, whatever the shooter's background, whatever led to this is irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Okay? Largely because what matters is what the conservative narrative is going to be. And yes, it is going to involve some degree of retribution. They are going to pick targets and try to make examples of people in order to show to their base how tough they are. It doesn't matter if that is not factual. What matters is the vibes. Okay? One of the leading voices on the conservative right, the man who came up with critical race theory as a talking point on every conservative's lips, the guy who came up with trans kids in sports as a talking point and mainstreamed it, that's this guy, Christopher Rufo. He's one of the most influential people in conservative Republican politics. The last time the radical left orchestrated a wave of violence and terror, J. Edgar Hoover shut it all down within a few years. It is time within the confines of the law to infiltrate, disrupt, arrest, and incarcerate all those who are responsible for this chaos. This is a man, by the way, who has real power and influence. He doesn't seek to have a massive following on social media. He doesn't seek to have to be in front of cameras all the time. This is not someone who is massively wealthy, but this is someone whose job it is to inject ideas into the conservative zeitgeist. Okay? And what they're talking about, when he's talking about this, he's not talking about arresting one person. He's talking about a mass fear campaign on the level of like the Red Scare or the Lavender Panic. What he's talking about are government tribunals to validate the morality of films. What he's talking about is government commissions looking into ideological disloyalty to the country. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about using those McCarthy laws and those McCarthy era laws that were passed during those times of panic in order to send federal agents into our communities, including communities like this one, in order to stir up shit, in order to compile names, in order to get a lay of the land and figure out who to make examples of, who to try and turn into rats, who to try and get into legal trouble. Okay? This is the kind of shit that is going to be very scary. And when I am telling you guys at the beginning of stream on days like today, like, don't Fed post, right? I'm not saying that just because, you know, if you're posting shit in my chat that could get me demonetized, that's bad for me, you know. I'm saying it because people like Chris Rufo want you in prison, okay? People like Chris Rufo want to come down on you like a hammer. And we need to start being more aware that this is happening right now and is going to happen to a greater degree as a result of this. Honest question, how do we respond or do in advance? How we respond and how we act in advance is we organize. And I think we need to organize predominantly around an idea of peaceful resistance to this government. You know, it needs to be peaceful. It needs to be dedicated to non-compliance, to ways that we can influence our system in the vein of, you know, the civil rights era, modernized for our times. And I think that this is a really important aspect, because here's the thing, right? I am aware of the arguments about, like, authoritarianism clamping down on peaceful movements. But I want you all to consider that there has been research done on this, and that the research predominantly shows that the most effective way to undo and reform or completely dismantle and build anew authoritarian governance is through peaceful resistance movements. It is the number one way to actually have a stable and peaceful society going forward into the future. There are books on this. Erica Chenoweth has written about this, but also, and I'm just gonna throw this out there once again, if there is truly like a civil war type breakdown in our society, where it is brother against brother, facing each other in a life or death struggle on the fields, that organizing is going to matter. You are organizing for your survival, whatever that winds up meaning. So we organize peacefully, and we dedicate ourselves to peace. And that is our path forward, whatever may come. If we are organized first, that makes fighting easier later. Exactly. It's why trade unionists were, like, feared by more authoritarian governments in the early 1900s. Okay? Like, it's why, like, the robber barons feared unionizers and unionizing. It's because when we organize together peacefully, it means that if they send in the Pinkertons, that's a huge gamble on their part. That is a huge fucking gamble. And the better organized we are, the bigger and less likely that gamble works out for the authoritarian. So, yeah, it's why they came for the communists first. Exactly. So I want you all to consider, like, if we are to get out of this, we need to, at the very least, organize a movement that is capable of getting people to go to boring meetings. We need to organize a movement that is willing to go to like City Hall and find out how it works. We need to organize a movement that is willing to do the hard grind on a day-to-day basis to sustain itself. We need to organize a movement that is willing to go to the ballot box and vote. Because if we can't even get people organized enough to vote, how are you going to get them organized enough to do jack shit else? So what I'm advising us all to do is to embrace the path of peace. And should the government force a situation where that is no longer possible, then that is something that is a bridge we cross when we get to it. But I don't think the government will do that. At least I hope it won't. And if it does, we will be ready. That is what being organized means. Hate that it's been left to the meek. Elizabeth, I agree. And so we must be bold. It has been left to the meek, and we must be bold because there are those meeker than us who know less, who have less power, who have less ability, and so we must become bold. Do we have time to do this at this point? It doesn't matter if we have time to do this. We must try. And so what I'm asking of you guys is not, are you ready to lay down your lives? But what I'm asking of you guys is, are you ready to go to your local meetings? Are you ready to go sit down with your local DSA or your local Democrats and radicalize them to better politics and like enact local change to like prevent your local sheriff's department from working with ICE, or to pass city ordinances that protect trans people in your area? Or are you willing to like run for office and put yourself out there? And it's going to be scary, but are you willing to try and do that on a state or local level? Mobilize. And I know that you might have differences with like your local Democrats or your local Working Families Party or your local DSA or your local fucking soup kitchen. I know you might have differences with Nancy, who helps serve the bread at the soup kitchen, guys, but you gotta get over yourself and deal with that shit. You don't have the luxury of being like, oh, it's time to like turn my nose up at it. You don't have that luxury anymore. You had that luxury a year ago. But everything's all fucked up now. And we all gotta learn to work together, or we're all gonna be in deeper shit together. That is what building a coalitional movement is and means, and that is what I'm asking of you guys. Why would Christopher Rufo post in the open how to crack down on the left instead of doing closed-door intelligence meetings? Because Christopher Rufo has always posted publicly about what he's doing. He has never once made a secret about his intentions when it comes to the CRT, critical race theory, or when it comes to trans kids in sports. He has explained meticulously and openly what his plans and intentions are. Because the alignment against the American people by the conservative movement has been done out in the open. The lobbying is done publicly. The super PACs come in publicly. They don't have to even bother trying to conceal it anymore. So that's why he talks about it publicly. But you know, it's not just Christopher Rufo, right? It's also Blake Masters. You got Mike Cernovich. They're calling for congressional hearings, prosecution of anyone who backs leftist organizing, RICO charges, any kind of nonprofit, in mass investigations into all of it, a weaponization of the DOJ. It's bad, guys. Really, really bad. And I want y'all to know something here. Is that we have now spent like 2 hours talking about Charlie Kirk and the ramifications of all of this. The president put out a 5-minute long video mourning his death. We've got governors coming out mourning Charlie Kirk's death, or it's considered noteworthy enough to talk about. We've got, national newspapers running stories about Charlie Kirk's work and life. We've got debates on how good a person he was, and all of that. There was a school shooting today. Two students critically wounded in a mass shooting in Colorado. The president's not talking about that. Most of the governors aren't talking about that. And it is a sign of how much violence our state enacts. That children can be shot up in schools on an almost daily basis in our country, and politicians do nothing. It's become so matter of fact that this is that a story about children being shot in a place of learning is just considered normal. I'm infuriated. I'm furious. I'm sad. This I mourn. And again this happens. Again and again. And conservatives do nothing. Conservatives do nothing to try and stop mass shootings. Absolutely nothing. And yet, Charlie Kirk gets shot, And suddenly the president of the United States and every single major Republican mouthpiece starts talking about the need to do nationwide tribunals and investigations and pass laws and curtail your constitutional rights in the name of security, while children get massacred on a near daily basis in this country. That is the most infuriating aspect about today. That is the most infuriating aspect about today. That on the one hand, a shooting we know nothing about, by and large, is national headlines in every newspaper, every media station, every political figure is talking about it, and the massacre of children is just a blip on the radar. They're going to try and strip you of your constitutional rights because of Charlie Kirk. And they're not willing to pass any kind of legislation that might make it even 0.1% harder to massacre children. And if that doesn't tell you quite a bit about the social and material breakdown of the fabric of America, I don't know what to tell you. If that is not radicalizing you in this moment, I don't know what to tell you. The old way of liberalism or neoliberalism just isn't going to cut it where we are anymore. If you have traditionally considered yourself a middle of the road like Democrat or a liberal, now's the time to get your head out of your ass and take a look at what's happening right here, right now in this country. Because it's time we start actually doing something. We can't just float around on the inertia of the liberal message of hope and change from the Obama years, because there was no change and hope has died. And so we need to act in order to make that hope real again. Hope is not, contrary to the adage, hope does not spring eternal. Hope is made. So go out and make some hope for yourself and for others, because action is the cure to your doomerism. All right? You need to get off your fence, get off your ass, and you need to act in your community if you want yourself and those you love and care about to be safe. We cannot control national politics on any one of us individually, but when we work together to better our own communities, we can, in fact, move the mountains of national politics. So get out there and do shit. And the time to act is now.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, being and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's